Hi, Mike Kennedy. We're looking at a film camera that was introduced in 1980. This is the Minolta Weathermatic A. This is a camera that is very water resistant. Besides being used in the rain or in a pool, it can go down to 15 or 12 feet approximately. Came with this kind of nice little soft case that has a Velcro, and it actually has a belt loop to put around you so that you won't lose it when you're swimming. Now this is one of the biggest 110 cameras I've ever seen, and why it's big is because it weighs about 12 ounces, but they had to incorporate enough empty space in this to make this float. So the idea is if you were diving with this, if you were just swimming underwater, snorkeling or whatever, and you let go of it, it's going to float up to the surface rather than sinking below. And if you're in a boat or in a pool with it, and you drop it, it's going to float in the water. And of course, it's this day-glow yellow color to make it more visible. Now, it's got a 23 millimeter f3.5 lens. It has oversized controls, so the idea is that you can work them underwater easily, or maybe with gloves on. And everything's tightly sealed. It has three kind of aperture settings. We've got one for bright, one for cloudy, and then one for flash. Now it's interesting with the flash, we turn it on. We can see here, see that little light blinking? That's telling me that the flash is charged. Let's just try it to see. Oh, here's the thing to wind the film. It works without film in it. There you go, that worked. It has an interesting system where it's kind of called tuning. In other words, instead of having an electric eye, this is before a lot of the technology was developed to use electric eyes with flashes. What it does is changes the aperture according to where you have it focused. So it knows that you're further away, the lens needs to open up more. And as you get really close, the lens has to close down so you won't get overexposed negatives. So that's really a nice feature. It mentions that you can use this without a battery, or when the battery's dead. You just have to remember to be on the appropriate settings for bright or cloudy. It's a fixed shutter speed of 1/200th of a second, no matter what the lighting situation is. Now, the back has a really nice positive seal on it. They've got these knobs on the sides that really grip this down tightly. We pull it up. Now, if we open it up all the way, you can see it comes apart, and it's got this thing to help you not lose it. It takes a double battery, which is really nice. Some of these other cameras take some odd batteries, but there's a very common one. There's the film door. What's nice about this is, see that little metal? That's a tab. That keys in with the film cartridge you put in to tell it whether you get the two choices back then were ASA 100 or ASA 400. So it would know what you put in the camera, which is nice. Now, this camera didn't work when I first got it, and what I did was, I'm going to show you a camera repair that anyone can make, which is often the case with cameras, older cameras that took batteries. What you have is a battery compartment, and there's a little tab down here. And because the camera has been sitting so long with that battery in it, what happens is that tab gets pressed down too far. So what I did is I went in with a jeweler's screwdriver and just pushed it up to one side a little. So then when I put the battery in, it stays up higher and makes the contact. Here we couldn't make a contact because this was so flat, but now I've moved it up some and we make the contact. That's the only repair that was required to get this camera fully functioning. A lot of times you'll have corrosion, and that's a different problem in itself, but this camera was really nice and clean, the battery contacts. We'll talk about that with another camera that actually needs that. So it's a bright yellow, so you can find it. It seems to be a really positive seal here. I personally like cameras that focus, and even if it's a guesstimation like this, I'm pretty good at guessing distances. You know, it's something you practice and you learn, especially if you were brought up with older cameras. and you can become quite accurate with this. Some cameras actually have rangefinders so that you'll actually be looking in the viewfinder and see exactly when it's in focus because of two images it merges. This does not have a rangefinder. It's nice because in the viewfinder you actually see it's got a distance scale up here. So we see again this picture of the mountain. We've got that dot. We've got a C for close-up. And it's got an indicator, so it shows in the viewfinder where you've set it. Okay? It also has two marks here. And there's a indicator light here. But when you focus all the way down to close-up, it's telling you that some of your frame, the frame is moved. This will give you an idea to reframe it better. It's got a light here, which is basically the flash or no flash light. If this light comes on, it's telling you you've got to turn the flash on. So that's really nice as well. So it seems to be a really rugged camera. This camera honestly looks like it was never used almost. It's got no marks on it at all. Could be something someone bought and used once or twice way back in the day and never used again. But this can, and like I say, people don't realize that 110 film is, or don't care, I have to throw that in, that 110 film is being used again. Everybody's into everything all digital. It's kind of odd that it's only recently we've started seeing some, the cell phones that are so, have replaced cameras so much. It's only recently that they've started to decide to make some of those waterproofs. We've had some waterproof point-and-shoot cameras come out, but usually a more expensive camera, you have to buy a separate, quite expensive housing. So hopefully, as we go along here, there'll be more cameras, digital cameras that have some amount of waterproofing. Maybe they won't be able to go down to 12 feet like this does, but at least you won't have to worry about if you drop them. So there we have it, the Minolta Weathermatic A. Oh, it's got, I'll mention, it's got the exact, it's got information here, but that's in a relief. You can't see it too well. But here, they've got a very good, easily readable one that tells you the flash distances, whether they say 100 or 400. It also shows you the exact settings for the close-up, the head and shoulders, the dot, the head and heels, and the infinity. So you've actually got 3 feet, 4 feet, 7 feet, 11 feet, and infinity. What you're going to find in the bright setting that stops the lens down more, it's going to be less critical that you focus correctly because the lens is stopped down, which gives you a greater depth of field. So there we go. The Minolta Weathermatic. I'll be getting some film to try these out. It's really kind of fun to go back to the days when we had film. I wasn't able to locate the price of this originally, but I've got a feeling that this was, in its day, was a very expensive camera. They also made a 35mm version as well, and I think that version was around $300. This would have probably been less, quite a bit less. But there we go. The Minolta Weathermatic camera, suitable for underwater photography down to 3 meters or approximately 15 feet.